Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. I am Edward Hunt with my friend,
Mike Cunningham.
and we are the Meddling Kids. For those of you just joining us, or if you'd like a quick review of what we do here, we review things, specifically movies. So what we're going to do is we'll first do a spoiler-free review. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, do not worry. We won't tell you anything or spoil anything. We'll give you just our thoughts on it, should you go. From there, if you do want to go after hearing this review, pause right there and then head on to the movies or catch it however you can, or keep listening and have everything be spoiled. I don't live your life. Do your thing. From there, today we're reviewing The Glass Onion. And for all of us listening, hello to the future. Whoa! Mike and I saw this movie last night for the limited theatrical release, but as a way to not tease all of y'all too much, we wanted to wait until it dropped on Netflix first and to give you this podcast. All right. Mike, ready for a spoiler-free review?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, let's do it.
So this one, so obviously it's a follow-up, not really a follow-up. It is a continuation of the Rian Johnson Knives Out universe.
Yes.
So Knives Out came out, I want to say 2019 or so. It was like one of my favorite movies of that year, kind of like a
phenomenal movie.
It was your sleeper, sleeper hit. Knives Out, the original, was like really cool because it was a whodunit, but they flipped the script on the whodunit detective genre, where like you knew who did it very early on. Now is how they're going to get away with it, and that's very interesting because like as the audience, you know all this information as you usually do, that the characters don't. This one, so coming in, I had very high hopes, loved the first one, but was a little bit worried because of the fact that it is a sequel. So like usually they get double the budget, less the story. Really don't know how to focus on what was great about the original. So I had high hopes, but also was very wary. But honestly, it was good. Like we talked about it. It didn't surpass the original, but it did, I guess, add on to the lure of the character that it is at the center of this. Detective Blanc, played by Daniel Craig. That was great. The new characters were very interesting. The cast was like just, star-studded, which the first one was as well. What else?
What do you get from a scale of 5? Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I saw all this and never got a review. I'll give it a 3.5.
Okay.
I was entertained. The mystery was great. It wasn't able to really surpass the original, but it was a nice follow-up, even though I don't think they considered a sequel. It just says a Knives Out mystery, which means that you don't even know where it sits in the chronological order or the lore of this universe. So 3.5, really solid film. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I would say, as Mike was saying, it's a chapter of Benoit Blanc, right? So it's kind of like those old Sherlock Holmes novels or the Hardy Boys novels.
Hercule Poirot, very similar to that. I think that's Agatha Christie.
Yeah, where it's just, here's the next adventure. So it's the same universe, same character. Here's his next adventure. So enjoyed it. My gut review after watching it was a 3.5. After further reflection and really thinking about it, part of me thought, maybe this is a 4. So I can't really get. It's somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4. I don't think it's a full 4. If you
break down these fractions,
it's just. I do.
It is a 3.867.
Repeating. No, it's just I can't give it the full 3.5. I can't give it the full 4. It's somewhere kind of floating in the ether. It's good. There's a lot of great things for it. As Mike said, it's a star-studded cast, and everyone is typecasted perfectly. I think the actors all did very well. I think the stereotypical people, like you have a men's rights activist in this, where he's ridiculous.
Which I haven't seen on film. Like ever.
But he's meant to be ridiculous, and he is ridiculous, and it's done very well. And obviously you have Daniel Craig, who's phenomenal. So somewhere in that ether of 3.5 to 4. But solid movie, I think, from both of us. Mike, when it drops on Netflix, since the theatrical run's almost over, would you recommend people see it?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Like I said, it doesn't surpass the first one, but that doesn't really take away from it as a film at all.
Yeah, I agree. It's just,
I think it was just a hard hurdle to really try to.
And how are you really going to surpass that first one? I mean, it just came out of nowhere. Also, with this, it does do a lot more explaining rather than showing. It does a lot more telling rather than showing, I think, especially in the second act, which kind of messes things up. But also, how do you tell such an intricate story in this finite time span? Unfortunately, sometimes you have to just give more exposition. All right. So before we get into that was our spoiler-free review. Before we get into a little background and our plot summary of just running you through the movies if you were here with us, let's have a quick word from our sponsors. Me. Hi, everybody. For those of you who may or may not know, I'm a real estate agent in the DMV, that is DC, Maryland, and Virginia. My team is the Just Be team, and we're all about helping you find where you're meant to be. For example, I love movies, so this is a passion project of mine with Michael. But it's who I am. It's part of
name.
It's not full government though, so it's all good. But it's a passion of mine, and that really translates to my real estate team as well. So if you are looking in DC, Maryland, or Virginia, please reach out to us or me personally, and we can find you a home. Also, a beautiful thing about my team is we are licensed with Compass, who is our brokerage. So we have phenomenal agents all over the U.S. So even if you are not looking in D.C., Maryland, or Virginia, but you want to find an amazing agent, reach out to me and I will make sure to find one for you. All right, Mike, you ready for the background?
That I am.
Let's do it.
So the background for Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, came out this year, 2022. So like we said, we saw it November 23rd. It had a very short theatrical release in November during Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving break, but it officially released on Netflix December 23rd during Christmas.
Yes. In theory, we're in the past. All you future people, I don't know.
The runtime is 2 hours and 19 minutes, which is a part of why it kind of it suffered as a very long runtime. I don't know how long the first one was, so I can't really talk. The budget was $40 million, directed by the director of the Knives Out, so Rian Johnson, starring Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, detective.
Benoit Blanc. I can't do his accent. I tried.
He sounded like
there's time.
He had a hot pocket in his mouth. Edward Norton as Miles Braun, this tech billionaire, and his friends. You have Kate Hudson playing Birdie, who is a former model turned fashion designer. You have Dave Bautista playing Duke, the men's right activist.
Yeah. Think of like an Andrew Tate, Dan Bilzerian kind of person,
killing it in a breakout performance for this guy. I mean, you're gonna want to listen for the name Dave Bautista. Never heard of him prior. Janelle Monáe as Andy, one of the friends in the group. You have Catherine Hahn as Claire. She's a senator from Connecticut. Leslie Odom Jr. playing Lionel. He's a scientist that works with Miles.
He also was Aaron Burr in Hamilton.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Gave Hamilton that. I mean, don't talk shit and then expect not to get shot.
Spoilers for Hamilton, sir.
I'm just saying. He started. Jessica Harwick as Peg. That's Birdie's assistant. Madeline Klein, as Whiskey, that's Duke's girlfriend. Yep. And then we have Noah Sagan. That I believe that's the stoner guy.
Daryl. Yeah.
Daryl.
What a good character Daryl was.
So very, very small cast. It was very focused on and also there was an appearance from what's his name?
Oh, Yo-Yo Ma?
Yo-Yo Ma, Serena Williams.
A lot of little cameos here.
A small cameo, so it's very interesting. Okay. But so that's the cast, that's the director.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fun fact with that too, I learned when I was doing a little more research. Netflix bought rights to this because there's at least going to be one more, but they bought the rights for like $426 million or 29. It's 6 or 9. You just turn it, whatever. But it's either 26 or 426 or 429 million dollars. They bought the rights to make sure you have it Netflix exclusive. And Netflix is trying to do that whole have a limited theatrical release for like a week. They have another movie coming out soon. I'm blanking on the name, where they're doing the same thing in December, and then they'll do the full release on Netflix.
But how do you expect to get because I think it's hard for subscription-based things to really get that return.
I mean,
because I think that was funny too, like seeing the Netflix logo in a theater. It was like, oh, all right, Netflix, relax.
Like, all right.
Because they got real Marvel with it.
Yeah.
But do you want to get started with the summer?
Let's do the plot. Yeah. After you.
Oh, me. So we start on May 13th, 2020. It's at Claire's house. It starts at Claire's house, but the whole thing is a group of friends, that being Birdie, Claire, Duke. What's the last one? Lionel. And Andy all get puzzle boxes from their tech billionaire friend, Miles Braun. And so 4 of the friends excluding and the one not being Andy, they call one another immediately when they get the boxes, and they it's a puzzle box, so they solve the puzzles together.
Mm-hmm.
And as you this introduction, you get to see the dynamics of the friend group. So you have Claire, who is a senator.
Yep.
So like she gets the box right before she's going on like CNN or something like that.
She's a governor running for the Senate.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. No worries.
And then you see Birdie. She's very much like that, like socialite.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's having some like huge party at her house.
Yes. And this is all set during COVID.
Yes, that's why the date was very important. May 13th,
2020. So it's set during COVID. So they're making little references to it as well, which for me personally, that was a little of, if you're making references to COVID or something, a big life event, 20 years from now, when you rewatch this movie and people aren't thinking about it, what are their thoughts?
Yeah, but we're still in the technically.
We are, but like
it's on the horizon.
Yeah, I know, but then like you'll have younger people who watch this who don't remember COVID like this. So when they make a joke of, "Oh, it's fine," they're all like, "This is Birdie. She has a huge party during COVID," and she makes the joke on the phone. "Oh, it's fine. They're all in my bubble." It's like 100 people.
I didn't catch that till just now. I remember her saying it, but I was like, once again, since we're out of it,
yes,
that's a very 2020, 2021 thing to say.
Exactly. Okay. So now people watching this in the future, to our children, if they ever watch this movie, they'll be like, "In my bubble? I don't understand. What do you mean?" So that's my problem with movies making references like this. To
it really sets itself in a
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have Birdie's with her like a socialite having her party. Duke is actually streaming. He's a Twitch streamer.
Yeah.
And he's giving the funniest speech about men's rights, and I'm just sitting there like, go on.
And he just has a full-on gun, just like right in front of
the DiCaprio meme from Django. Yeah. You now have my attention. Yeah. And then the last one, who's that? That's Lionel. He's actually in a meeting with some of the investors or the workers at what is it called? Alpha.
Alpha, yeah.
Miles's company. And he's a tech billionaire, so he's one of those eccentric people where he'll just send messages about ideas. So he gets the box when he's in the meeting with them. So you really get to see where they are in life and how they're kind of connected to Miles. So like I said, they're on the phone, they're on this group call, they solve the box together. And when it opens up, it's an invitation for them to come to his island, his private Greek island called the Glass Onion.
Yes. Which
is significant to them because it is the bar that they all met. They used to hang out with before it closed down, like maybe a decade prior. So you see that those four solve it. They get the invitation, and then it jumps to Andy, who has also gotten a box, but she didn't get the call from the group. And so she's in her garage. She's looking at the box, and then she just goes off, puts on some safety goggles and a hammer, and just bangs. And it's like, I mean, that is also a way to solve things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's great. It's a great scene that really sets up all the characters really well. Because as Mike said, you have all four working together. You see their little intricacies and what they're good at, and then you also see very explicitly that Andy was not included here. Yeah. So it does a great job tonally of being, why isn't that person? Why is that person?
Yeah, so initially I was just like, is she even in the group? Yeah. Because it was like, you could tell that they're all friends from where, you don't know, but it was just like, is she even in the group? Did she get something separate?
Yes.
So that showed that. But also it was like when she banged it open, it was just like, is she not one of the, could she have solved it?
Yeah, could she have solved it? Did she just not want to play these games? We see with that, there's a lot of, if you take a hammer and you bash a wooden box, there's a lot of anger there. And you kind of get this, she seems upset. I don't know why she's upset, but she seems upset here.
Yeah, so Andy gets the invitation, she sees it, and then, so you have the original, those five friends, and then there's one more person that gets a box, and it is Detective Benoit Blanc, and he is holed up in his bathtub on a Skype call with Angela Lansbury, Natasha Lyonne, what's his name? Is it Yo-Yo Ma?
No, not Yo-Yo Ma. Yo-Yo Ma was at Birdie's party. He had, why am I blanking on this basketball player's name?
Kareem.
Yeah, Kareem Abdul. Yeah.
Yes. There was also a fourth. I can't remember the fourth.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, Stephen Sondheim, I believe.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, he's on a Skype call with a bunch of his friends saying how bored he is. And it, once again, going back to the pandemic and quarantining. As a detective, he lives for the case, the puzzle, solving puzzles. And because of quarantine, he hasn't had a case in X amount of time.
Yeah, and he's playing Among Us, which was a very fun COVID game. I played Among Us, where you're trying to solve.
Sus, bro. I don't know, green sus.
They're trying to solve these cases, and it shows he's very bad, as he puts it, he's very bad at dumb things. Yes. And he's not enjoying this at all. But then he gets a knock at the door.
Yeah, so there's a knock because it's also like his friends are like, "Are you in the bathtub again?"
Oh,
like
yes.
this whole thing,
He's
like
not
they kind of know
COVID
he's
well.
not handling COVID well. So there's a knock at the door. He says, "You got in a box," and so next thing you know, I think you see the title card or something like that, maybe.
Yes,
and then it jumps to them on the dock in Greece, waiting to be picked up by the yacht to go to the island.
Yes.
So Benoit Blanc is there 1st. Then you see Birdie and her assistant show up. What's her name? Claire.
Oh, Claire. Yeah.
Claire shows up. So everybody shows up, one at a time. And then obviously they're all, getting to know one another. I'm sorry, I guess reconnecting. And you see back to this, it's 2020. It literally keeps letting you know it's 2020.
Yeah.
During the pandemic.
They all have masks.
So some of them have Birdie's mask is literally just and once again, celebrities. It was like it was a mask, but it was like netted. So it was like, what's the point, Madam?
It was a mask that had multiple big holes in it, so you could clearly see her entire bottom side of her face. But she still takes it off. She's like, "Oh, thank goodness, I couldn't breathe in that thing." And you're like, "Okay, it was very COVID related."
Yeah. So, there's that. It was even like them not knowing if they could hug one another, or like trying to keep their distance. So then the last person shows up, and that's Andy. And it's kind of like, it's very, you can tell, I mean, as the audience, you've seen, she didn't get the call to do the puzzle.
Yes.
Or something like that. So you've seen that there's a distance there. And then when she arrived, there's also that kind of that shock that she's there.
You could hear like a pin drop.
Yeah. And I feel like Birdie is the first to leave, hey girl, like on some, like trying to be inviting. And then you get the cameo. This is when I was talking about it. Who is it? It's Ethan Hunt, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yes. Hawk.
Yes,
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke plays a cameo, and he's just like the medicine guy or like something like that. So he comes and he just says, "Open your mouth," and he shoots. I assume what would be like a vaccine. Once again, 2020,
rich people stuff.
He just shoots them something into their mouths and says like, "You're good. You don't need your mask anymore."
Yeah.
Benoit Blanc goes to like question, and he was just like, "You're good.
You're good.
Keep it moving."
Yeah.
So then they find out, they meet the captain of the boat. They said there's going to be a 2-hour trip.
Yeah.
You no longer need your mask. Like, you're all set. So like everybody gets on the boat.
Yeah.
And you have this, the 2-hour trip to the island.
Quick pause just before we get to the island. Why does everyone know who Benoit Blanc is?
It's like, I don't know if you watched the Death on the Nile or Murder on the Orient Express, but it was just like, the world just knows the most important detective. Yeah. I don't know where you would know.
I was like, I don't know a single detective. There's no detective. So it's just funny that we're set in this modern world with COVID, and you have all these people like immediately upon seeing him, they're like, "That's Benoit Blanc, the famous detective. Oh my goodness, he's here. That's amazing." Like, where do people know this guy? Why?
Like, if it wasn't from the turtlenecks, I wouldn't have known like Appleseed.
Yeah, exactly. But again, so Benoit Blanc is very famous. Everyone knows him. They are confused that he's there, but they also, because on the invitation card it said, "You're coming to my murder."
Yes,
murder mystery.
So he's invited them to the island for a murder. I don't know if I said that, but so thank you.
Yeah.
So on the boat, you see Benoit, like he talks to Lionel about how cold the people are being to Andy. And he doesn't really divulge to him much information, but he says there's bad blood between the group and Andy. So they're all kind of shocked that she showed up.
She would even be there.
So they get to the island, and you see Miles playing the guitar to greet them.
Yep.
And slowly but surely, they greet him. And you meet, what's this guy? Is it Daryl?
Daryl.
He was like, "Don't mind me." He was like, "Yeah, he's on the island." Like
it is just over the top, and that's something I love about this movie. Like, over the top, you go on this island, and here's this rich guy playing a guitar on the beach, and he's like, "Welcome to my island." And it's just, everything about this movie is the utmost stereotype or a caricature, I guess, at this point in time. It's a caricature of what it is. Here's this stereotypical super rich guy inviting his 5 friends and Benoit Blanc to an island during COVID because he has the time, money, and resources for it. But then Daryl is this stoner guy who just kind of walks through with the friends, like, I'm not here, and just like stumbles through. And then Ed Norton's character Miles is like, "Oh, he's going through some things. So he's here, but he's not really here. This is about us right now." And it is just so Like I know, I don't know any billionaires, but I know people that are like kind of quirky like that. And then whenever I visited them, there will just be some random stoner dude with a 6-pack chilling on the couch, and they'll just tell me, he's like, "Oh, he's going through some things right now, man. I'm letting him crash at my place."
So you're saying there's authenticity?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of authenticity with it. Yeah, yeah, it's ridiculous.
So like, yeah, he introduces him. And then like, so he tells them, it explains about the islands. Like they got a wristband that let them know like there's keys to their rooms.
Yeah.
He gave them all like different names based on their chakras.
On the chakra he associated with them.
Quirky rich people shit.
Birdie has the sacral chakra, which is like your tailbone. So that's the chakra that he associates with Birdie, because I guess maybe they had a fling at some point in time. I don't really know.
And then so he sends everybody off to their rooms to get ready. They're going to meet by the pool shortly. And then he takes Benoit and he was like, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" And he takes him to his office and explains about the glass onion and stuff like that. And then he goes, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah, why are you here?
And then you find out that he only made 5 boxes. So Benoit being there is a shock.
Yeah.
And so Benoit kind of is like, being the detective, is trying to deduce like, well, I got the box. I have the invitation. That's why I'm here. So obviously somebody sent it to me. So it's like, he questions, was like, did you only make 6? Was there a sample? So they kind of deduced that maybe one of the people there is playing a trick on him, or playing a trick on Miles, so to invite Benoit to a murder mystery party.
Yeah, the famous detective to the murder mystery. And it's also great, like Daniel Craig, Benoit Blanc, just takes little digs at Miles every now and then without even realizing it. He's just like, yeah, so I solved these very childish puzzles. And I'm here to read it.
I did notice that. Like, Miles is like, whoa, childish. Yeah. That took all day, guys.
Yeah. Because Miles said he hired some very famous puzzle maker to make all of this. And Benoit Blanc's like, yes, a very childish puzzle. Yes, and now I'm here. And they just keep it moving.
Yeah. But they realize that, he's there over a prank. And Miles is cool. He was like, please, hopefully, maybe you can solve the
seems like a decent guy. At this point in time, Miles, eccentric, seems like a decent guy. So
they all meet at the pool, and you kind of get more background on like each of the characters and stuff like that. And then there's like, for the rest of the day, there's just interactions between the characters. There's one big one where like, so you have Benoit goes out to some garden to have a smoke, and they're just very sensitive sensors to smoke and stuff like, which is very funny. So he likes a cigar. Yeah. The sensors go off, so he throws it in the water, and the sensor's like, "Hey, God, what are you doing?
Please keep our water clean. Please keep our water clean."
Then you see like there was always something very very off between Miles and Whiskey. Where like she was, I guess, very like handsy or touchy. Like, so you do see them off in his bedroom, like getting intimate, and then you notice that, Benoit notices that Duke, also Whiskey's boyfriend, is watching. Yes, and then he like, it's a shot on his fist. Yeah, as if he's like very, obviously upset about this.
Yeah, very angry.
And then there's an exchange. Oh, sorry.
No, I was saying he's very angry about that. So you see, there's tension on this.
Yes,
island.
There's very much tension. He sees in the pool, he sees Lionel and Claire go off to the side to discuss something. Birdie is making comments about something and doesn't notice that Andy's sitting right there, and like she kind of plays it off. And then there's an exchange where they're all sitting kind of in like a gazebo or not a gazebo, but like some inside. Yes. And Benoit, because Miles keeps bringing up this idea of them all being disruptors. Yeah. And Benoit, queries, what does that mean? And so Miles, once again being eccentric, goes on this whole soliloquy about like how they each one of them have disrupted something in their own worlds to become great. Yeah. And he starts mentioning, he was like, there'll be people to tell you to stop or don't do this. And he's kind of subtly hinting at Andy, who has just walked into the room to hear it. And so she goes off, like, so she hands off her bottle of kombucha to Peg, which
spiked kombucha from Jared Leto. Jared Leto's spiked kombucha is what Miles Braun drinks.
Yes. Yeah, so she hands off her kombucha to give this like real speech about. It's just an outburst, really, to kind of in response to what Miles was saying about people not being loyal or something like that.
And she's saying, what she says is that everyone is just sucking at Miles' golden teeth.
Yes.
Like everyone here, what they all have in common is that they all are just relying on Miles to basically be their meal ticket. Like Birdie was a failed supermodel at this point. She tried to run a clothing line. Miles funded it. Claire, the governor running for the Senate, Miles is funding her campaign. Duke, Miles is funding his Twitch stream and other adventures. Lionel,
he works with
Miles. He's the head scientist for Miles at Alpha.
So each one of them are basically using Miles. Like they're in desperate need. That's what connects them, not this bullshit about being disruptors. And then so she says that she storms off. Claire chases her, and then I notice that Andy kind of stumbles when like she's walking away with Claire, and I was like, I thought back to the kombucha, and I was like, oh, maybe they kind of somebody did something with it.
Got you, yeah.
And then so she storms off, and Miles kind of shakes it off and goes, "Well, dinner's at 8. I'll see you then." Yep. So I don't know if they jump directly to dinner.
Basically, they might as well.
Basically, so like everybody's at dinner. Miles is like showing off his living room, which is extravagant, a bunch
ridiculous,
a bunch of sculptures and stuff like that. And then you see his prize. His prized possession is the actual Mona Lisa from the Louvre. And then going back to, once again, they relentlessly tell you it's 2020 because, obviously everything's shut down. The Louvre isn't getting any money. So he paid them to take the Mona Lisa from the Louvre to his house. And he has all the security measures. Like if you make a sound or anything like that, it automatically locks to protect it. And then he shows them MacGuffin shit. That he has a failsafe there, just because he likes the danger of it. Yeah, and Lionel, sitting there trying to figure out, well, why do you have this? Obviously, you're rich, we get that, but why do you have this? And he admits that he's going to be having all of the world leaders there the next week to announce this alternative energy source he's been working on, called Clear with a K. And you find like it's both Claire and Lionel are just like, how can it's like dangerous? There's been there was like, I guess, one failed test or something like that. And it was like, so why are you pushing? Because I told you I need 2 months
because it'll make hydrogen gas.
Yes. So it's basically
very flammable substance.
Yeah, Claire mentions the Hindenburg. Yes. And so,
quick time. The Hindenburg, for anyone that doesn't know, it's a Zeppelin from like 1930s, I believe, filled with hydrogen gas. They thought hydrogen gas was going to be the new revolutionary fuel. Hydrogen gas is very flammable, so any fire at all causes everything to explode. Just letting you know. That's the mic. Science fact from Edward.
So that brings tension between at least Claire and Lionel in the room. And so they sit down at the table, and he's, giving a speech about like thanking them all for being there. Obviously, these are tough times, so it's like nice to be surrounded by people you care about. And then Benoit, he says, basically, I can't wait to start this murder mystery. Yes. And he goes to start it, and immediately Benoit is like, can I raise his hand? Can I solve it? Yeah. And Miles is like, I mean, you can try.
It's very difficult.
And immediately he says, Birdie with the crossword, it's like on some clue shit. Yeah. And it was like, you see that there's from where Miles is standing, there's a crossbow aimed directly at him. Yeah. And then there's different clues about like her chakra name. Yeah. Like there was a magazine she was looking at with a specific diamond in it. Yep. And it was like, that's something that Miles kept in a locket around his
neck. The diamond is her family heirloom. And then Miles stole it from her, keeps it in a locket. So because of that, Birdie had him now motive to kill him. Yeah.
So he immediately solves it. And then like Miles is just disheartened.
He's like, what? Literally, they go upstairs, and Miles is like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah. And then Benoit admits. Oh, and then it was just funny. It was like, so the arrow goes off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Boy, yeah.
So like the still thing goes through, and like you see it's a fake arrow that hits him. Blood spurts out.
Like fake blood.
And he's just sitting there just disappointed.
Just like...
So he goes upstairs because he was like, first of all, Benoit goes like, what do I win? Like, what's the, and he was like, I don't know, an iPad? So they go upstairs after he solved it. He goes, here's your fucking iPad. And he's upset. And then Benoit admits, he was like, oh, I solved this on purpose for a reason. He was like, because you basically gathered a bunch of people here who have means to harm you.
Like motives.
Motives and means to actually hurt you. So like, why would you put it in their mind? You invited these people that want to murder you to a murder mystery party.
And Miles was like, what are you talking about? No way. But Duke knows that Miles is banging his girlfriend. Clearly, there's with Claire and Lionel,
like the whole thing with Clear.
And then
Andy, obviously, because you learn that like he's cheated her out of the company that they started together.
Yeah. And then Birdie, because Miles wants Birdie to take the fall for her clothing line because it's made in a sweatshop.
Yes.
So everyone has it. And then Benoit says a great line of, it's kind of like you just loaded a gun and put it in the center of a table and then let the lights go out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then they go back downstairs and like Claire and Lionel are talking about leaving. So, I mean, if the murder mystery's done, we don't need to be here anymore. And like Birdie's like, no, let's stay, let's enjoy it. Because once again, 2020, they've been locked in their homes for months at this point. So it's just like, at least let's enjoy ourselves. Yeah, we can't do the murder mystery. We can swim. We can, lay out on the beach and all these different things. So while they're saying that, Andy has just another outburst.
Yeah.
Saying like, because Claire also like kind of freaks out on her. She's like, "What do you want? Why are you here?" Yeah, because they all know that they kind of sided with Miles during the trial.
Well, we don't fully know at this point in time, right? Because that happens later.
No, they do admit it. Yeah. So it's like we sided with Miles.
Yeah, that's what they say. They sided with Miles, but we still don't fully know the background story of all of this.
Yeah. So she just like Claire's like, "What do you want? Do you want money? Like just." Because it's obviously looming over her head that Andy feel guilty. Yeah, they feel guilty. So Andy just yells, "I just want the truth." Yeah, she shouts it. So Duke, fucking Duke, goes, "All right, I'll be the answer."
Yeah, I got it. Yeah,
and he just says, "It's like because he's tired of her playing the victim." He's just like, obviously, she was right. Like we're all suckling at Miles's teeth. You just lost.
Yeah, you just couldn't do it anymore. Yeah, you couldn't hack it.
So like she pushes past him and leaves the room.
Yep.
And then Miles comes back down and like kind of convinces, like, obviously we can't do the murder mystery anymore, but let's just continue the party.
Yeah.
So everybody's in good spirits. Birdie starts dancing. Duke mentioned he's getting constant alerts about like all of them, like just different things. Yeah. And he gets an alert. He shows something to Miles. He's like, "These numbers are good, right?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "So Anchor News," because that was something that Duke had wanted. And he was like, "Yeah, well, with those numbers, like we can really talk. That's perfect." And then so you see like Birdie dancing, Miles and Duke sitting with each other having a drink, and then everybody's just like very joyful. But what I noticed is like because of the Mona Lisa, every time the sound is made, it's the security measures for the Mona Lisa, it's a constant opening. So it's just like, it's joyful. Yeah. Like Birdie getting everybody, like trying to get everybody to dance. Everybody's laughing, joking and stuff like that. And then a constant, every now and then, it's just a slamming shut, a chunk.
Because this glass will just slam down in front of the Mona Lisa. So while this is happening, tension's building. And like, it's just shunk constantly. And you're just like, okay, something's about to happen. You don't know what, but something.
So then suddenly Duke stands Duke stands up and he starts like choking. So he's just like, and he falls into the center of the room and he just dies. Yep. And like Benoit's trying to help. He's like trying to, see if something's obstructing his airways or something, but there's nothing. He just doesn't understand. So like Duke dies. He's dead on the floor. So like Benoit's like, okay, we need to call the cops and something like that. And then that's when people start freaking out. Well, we need to call medical personnel and the cops. Yep. Yeah. And then Claire hears a cop. She's like, shit, I'm a senator. Like I'm trying to run for senator. I can just see the headlines. Yeah. Miles is on the same thing. Was like, why do we need the cops? What are you talking about? Yeah. And then I apologize. Whiskey rushes in because she had been outside. Yeah. She rushes in and she's like, oh, our rooms are trash. Like, what the hell is going on? And
she says that she saw Andy.
So she automatically, like, obviously the only one that wasn't in the room outside of Whiskey was Andy. So like she puts it in. Andy did something, like, I don't know. And then Miles notices that the cup that Duke was drinking from was his. Yes. And so he's like,
Miles on it.
Yeah. So then he starts piecing things together. It was just like somebody was trying to hurt him. Benoit has just given this information. It was like, you basically gave these people the idea to murder you. So now he's like freaking out. He's like, so Benoit initially says, like, because the cops can't get there until the next morning because fucking Miles's dock only comes in the low tide.
Low tide, yeah. It's only at low tide is when ships can actually dock there.
So he was like, it won't be able to get there until 6 o'clock in the morning. So he's telling everybody to go to their rooms and stay there on something because this is a police investigation. But Miles recognizes that maybe somebody's there trying to kill him. So he's like, nobody leaves this room till we get the truth.
Yeah.
And then he starts freaking out. I think they notice that the gun is gone?
Then they notice the gun's gone. So that's when like shit all really hits the fan.
And then he said like because there's also a constant dinging every hour.
Yes.
And you know that was like Justin Long?
I did not know that was Justin Long. So backstory, every hour on the island, there's literally a dong sound where someone, like their voice goes dong every hour on the hour. Because again, eccentric billionaire. So it starts building up. All this, the room's going crazy. They realize Batista or Duke's gun is gone. Then Miles is doing a great job of like hiding behind. He's like, "Yo, stay away from me."
And then because he starts freaking out because he was like, I was supposed to give this speech at 10 o'clock. And it was this whole thing was like the end of my speech was going to be the lights going out. Yeah. So like literally on the entire island, all the lights go out. So everybody's scattered at this point, which I don't get because it's dark. Where you go?
I mean, hey, like someone's got a gun, everyone's scattering. Like,
so then we see like Miles is trying to avoid his friends. And then we see that Andy is kind of following. Like, so she, we didn't know where she was, but she's kind of following him. Yep. And then she runs into
Benoit Blanc.
Benoit. Yeah. And he's like trying to like get her to calm down. And then you see somebody has Duke's gun. Yep. And is aiming it at Andy. But then suddenly, like from where he's standing, Benoit kind of blocks it. So the gunman can't get to Andy. And then he opens up again and he's saying like, I figured it out. But I just need, one more piece of information. Yeah. And Andy gets shot. Yeah. And so like everybody, like Benoit is like kind of shocked. He sees that there's glass that's been shattered from where the gunman was standing behind. Yep. And then all of the people left over, obviously outside of Duke, who was also dead. Yeah. They show up and he's like, okay, we need to solve this. So he gathers everybody back in the living room.
Yeah. Lights turn on. Everyone's there. Benoit Blanc is crying. And then everyone's looking down in shock at the fact that now another person's dead. Benoit Blanc says, all right, back. It's time to actually solve this.
Yeah. So then this is about at the hour mark, I believe, or something like that. So then it jumps back.
Time skip.
back to May 13th, a week prior.
Yes.
When Benoit received the box. So you see, and this is another cameo. Yeah. So somebody knocks on the door, and who opens the door at Benoit's house but Hugh Grant. Yeah. The national goddamn treasure. And so I guess it's assumed that he's his life partner or something like that. And you see Andy at his door. Yeah. And she's talking
very different. All of a sudden she has a Southern accent. Yes. And then her hair is completely different.
Yeah. And she has the destroyed box. Oh, she has the box. Yeah. From that we saw her destroy earlier.
Yeah. Quick time, just because leading up, this was a good like halfway point through the movie kind of. It was this part of the movie I thought was great. I thought like I really enjoyed this first part of the movie. Yeah. I think as it was going through, it built tension very nicely with the glass shutting. You don't fully know what's going on. You see all this stuff happening and you're like, cool, all right. And then we have the time skip, and then Andy is now talking to Benoit.
Yes. So they're sitting out on his terrace or something like that, and she's saying that she is not Andy, but her twin sister Helen. Yep. From Alabama, right? And so she goes on to how she believes that her sister has committed suicide, I think 2 days prior. Yes. Or something like that.
Yeah, like a day or so prior.
Yeah, and I think she's her only surviving family member. So she had to go and, identify the body. And so she gives a backstory on how she doesn't think that her sister killed herself. She thinks that she was murdered and she wants to hire Benoit. Yeah. And so she wants him to go in her place, in Andy's place, to the island. Yes. To investigate. And so she gives the backstory on how they all the 5 friends met. Yeah. So you find out that they were all Andy's friends first. In their, early 30s, I believe, or something like that. Kind of like Lionel was a teacher.
They were all kind of losers. They were nice enough people, but no one was as famous or as popular as they were.
But
now.
Andy saw their potential.
Yes.
And then she met Miles, introduced him to the group. Yeah. Where they all used to hang out with the Glass Onion. And slowly but surely, like they were all a little skeptical because he talked like an eccentric billionaire. A lot of bullshit.
Miles was kind of still quirky, still a little odd.
But he had big ideas. But obviously, a lot of times it's like, if people don't see your vision, they'll just write it off. Type of thing. But once again, Andy, being the visionary that she saw both the vision in her friends and in Miles.
Yeah. And then Miles was, honestly, in a lot of ways, Miles was the first catalyst. Miles was the one who helped Claire, the governor, get her first political gig. He helped Duke actually start streaming on Twitch. He
got Lionel published, I believe.
Something like that.
He got Birdie, her job as a fashion designer. So he helped all of them. And then one night, Andy comes up with the idea for Alpha.
Yes.
And they start a company, and then they all get on the ground floor. So they all become, they become rich. They become famous.
Andy and Miles especially go in as partners together and then make Alpha together.
And then Miles, once again, still being a disruptor, still wanting to push the envelope, he wants to invest in all of the money from Alpha into this alternative energy. Clear.
Hydrogen gas.
And Andy looks at it and she's like, I can't let you do this. Like, it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
But Miles, once again, being a disruptor, is like, you can't let me.
Yeah.
And so Andy threatens to walk and take half the company just so he can't do it.
Yeah.
And so she does that, but Miles works it with, through the law where Andy gets nothing.
Yeah. He makes it saying that Miles has all the intellectual property because he lies and says that it wasn't Andy who wrote down the idea on the napkin. It was Miles himself. Andy can't find the napkin. And then all of the friends that were Andy's friends first all take the side of Miles because at this point in time, Miles has invested so much more in helping them all grow. Yeah. So they're like, crap, if Miles doesn't have this company anymore, then we're screwed. So we're siding with Miles.
So you see them at the trial all lie, and she's upset because you're my friends. So she loses the company. Yep. Everybody kind of moves on, and then one day, in a fit of rage, she destroys her apartment and finds the evidence. It's a napkin from the Glass Onion, which has since shut down. So it's like a vehement proof that it's in her handwriting and everything that she came up with the idea for Alpha. Yeah. So she puts it in an envelope, sends a picture of her with the envelope in an email to the group saying, I found the evidence. Yeah. So you guys, we need to talk or else.
I'll give you one last chance to be on the right side here, basically.
And then she ends up so she sent that maybe 2 days prior to her death or something like that. So it's obviously she's found in a apparent suicide, in her car with some sleeping pills, and then she left the car on in the garage. Yep. But her sister's not buying it. So she wants Benoit to find her killers. Yep. Because obviously the evidence is out there. Whoever has the evidence is the one that killed her sister. And they could be in talking about their motives. Yeah. So they don't have a motive to kill Miles, but they do have a motive to protect him. Yes. And so she wants Benoit to take her place on the island during this murder mystery weekend getaway. But Benoit comes up with the idea that they can suppress the news about Andy's suicide. Helen can replace her.
Yep, for the trip. Yeah.
For the trip. And he's right. It was just if he shows up and Andy doesn't, they're all going to be on high alert.
Yeah, no one's going to tell him anything. They're all they're going to clam up. No one's going to answer any of his questions or anything like that.
So they in turn work together. Her being his spy. Yeah. To let their guard down and stuff like that. So and then this is when it goes back to you seeing her snoop on the island. So she has an exchange with Whiskey because Whiskey is also an outsider. She's just Duke's girlfriend that he brings around for arm candy. Yeah. And so I
think Duke kind of likes
her.
Does. Yeah. But he does also. Well, you've realized this later. Yeah, what he's doing to try and manipulate Miles. Yeah.
And then you see Whiskey isn't as ditzy or dumb as you. She's just literally using both Miles and Duke to start her own thing.
Yeah. To further her own career.
For her own brand. And it was so that's interesting. You have Duke using Whiskey to get Miles to add him to this Alpha News.
The Alpha News network.
And so it goes back to obviously earlier Benoit saw Duke watching Miles and and Whiskey have sex. And you see that fist clench, but it's not clenched because he's watching the infidelity. It's clenched because they're making fun of him.
Yeah, especially Miles with being Duke could never be on the Alpha News Network. He's a Twitch streamer, but that's about as far as he'll ever get. And that's why Duke was clenching his fists.
There was and then the exchange, slowly but surely they're gathering evidence. So every now and then on the island, while before dinner, Benoit and Helen now, disguised as Andy, are meeting up to go over the clues that they're finding. And she's doing very well, but she's also drinking the kombucha.
She doesn't realize it's
because she doesn't drink at all. It's spiked, so she's kind of losing her wits about her. But even in that, she's still able to gain. So that outburst that she had when Miles was talking about being a disruptor, it's her being drunk. So like you see her stumbling, it's because she's drunk.
Yep.
And that's when Lionel and Claire said, "Oh, something's off."
Yeah, it's this part of the movie where I had two questions where a little bit was lost for me. Was one, Benoit Blanc, isn't this your job?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And I think maybe it was just because of who Janelle Monáe is, but it was just like, it was very much like, well, why isn't the detective doing the detective?
Yeah, he's like literally, I guess Benoit Blanc has a plan that Helen is following and collecting all the evidence, which is great. And he is distracting people very well and asking questions. But so much of this is Benoit Blanc, the world's most famous detective ever, relying on Helen, who is obviously a remarkable woman because she's finding all this information. But she's before this, she's a third grade teacher. Right? That's how she introduces herself. And, obviously she's a lot smarter than she believes in herself to be. But at the same time, I'm like, Benoit Blanc, why can't you get some of this information yourself? And then also, it's a lot of telling, not as much showing. They're like, so I found this, this, and this. And I found this, this, and this. And it's super fast.
It's literally giving the audience the evidence.
Yeah.
So this all leads up to dinner where Benoit once again orchestrates it. So like she has that outburst about wanting the truth.
Yes.
To give her an excuse to go search their rooms because they realize that whoever stole the evidence from from Andy's house, brought it with them to give to Miles to be in his good faith.
Yeah, because they would have gone to kill Andy. So at this point in time, what the theory we're working with is that one of the 5 other friends went in and killed Andy, took that envelope that she emailed everybody, which had the napkin in it, and took that with them to the island. Yes. That is the thought.
So they use this distraction of her not being in the room for her to go and search everybody's room for this.
Yeah.
And so what happens is when the lights go out and he meets up with Helen, again, he's like, I found the pieces, but she didn't find the evidence in any of the rooms. So it's like, it must be in the glass onion.
Yeah, in Miles's office, in the central glass onion at the top there.
So he's saying, I'm going to give you, I'm going to gather everybody. I need you to go and find it. But then she gets shot.
Yes.
And so, but you realize that she didn't die from getting shot. She kept her sister's journals, and that's how she was able to kind of become her sister because she looked at TED Talks. She read all her journals to really get all this information about these people. Yeah. So this journal that she kept tucked in her jacket pocket is what caught the bullet. So she didn't die, but Benoit realizes the killer doesn't know that she's not dead. Yeah. He assumed that the killer assumes that this is all done now.
Yeah. Because technically speaking, the bullet went through a pane of glass, and which would have reduced velocity. And then also it kind of got caught by this journal. So she barely survived. A little hokey, maybe a little hokey, but okay. And this was a great callback to Benoit Blanc getting Jeremy Renner's hot sauce. Just tons of little cameos in this. There's Jeremy Renner's hot sauce in his pocket. And to make it look like all the blood that happened to Andy when she was shot, he just douses her clothes in that blood. And then when I mentioned he was crying earlier, it's because he literally takes a little dab and puts it in his eyes to show the tears. So that way he can also convince everyone else that he's very upset by this other murder he just witnessed.
So he gathered, he tells her to pretend to be dead. He'll gather everybody in the living room so she can go search for the evidence in the glass onion. And that's what talking about that. So he put the hot sauce in. It was he splashed some on her cheek, and it slowly makes it her way to her nose. Yeah. And she has to continue to play dead until everybody's.
So it goes up her nose. Yeah. This is something we haven't had. It's a podcast. We don't have time to go over everything. There's so many funny parts in this movie, little funny things. Yeah. It's parts with Daryl.
Birdie. Kate Hudson, I don't give her. I guess I didn't give her comedic chops because I guess she was in a lot of romantic comedies. Yeah. And so those are hit or miss when it comes to actual comedy. But no, she was just amazing. It was even early on when they're in a group call solving a puzzle box and somebody will say the clue and then Birdie will go, it was And it was, did somebody already say that?
Yeah, so many like little funny things happen throughout this movie as a great way to break tension and as a great way to kind of keep it a little more, has some more levity.
Yeah.
So we haven't been able to really mention that. I just wanted to put that out there, especially at this point in time.
Yeah. So back in the, so we're back to the present. Mm-hmm. Benoit has gathered everybody in the living room. Helen is now in the Glass Onion looking for the evidence.
Yes.
And you can see Benoit riffing, basically trying to
buy
time. And then so he starts insulting and saying how dumb Miles is.
Yeah. It's so funny because he is. Yeah. He used so many wrong words. He just said things very incorrectly constantly. And then
so he starts realizing, I don't know if it's before or after she comes with the evidence.
Yeah.
But he starts piecing together what actually happened.
Yeah.
So, that was something, sorry to jump back. Mm-hmm. So when she made that outburst when Helen made the outburst about when Miles mentioned being disruptive before dinner, both Claire and Duke went after her to talk to her.
Yeah.
And she was saying how because they mentioned the email. And she was saying, nobody responded to the email. And Claire goes, I'm a fucking politician.
Yeah. I don't email anything.
Yeah. So, but they had called Andy.
Yeah.
And then they all went over there.
Yeah. Though Lionel was the one to tell Miles about this. He faxed it.
Him. And so you know that they were all at Andy's house the night that she died.
Yeah.
So that once again gives them all opportunity and whatever. And so this is when Benoit comes to the realization after Andy has found the evidence and he pieces everything together. So Miles, after Lionel faxed the email about her having the evidence, he goes over to Andy's house first.
Yep.
Drugs her with a sleeping pill and then sets her up to make it look like a suicide. As he's driving off, everyone else is also on their way to stop Andy and just talk to her.
Yeah.
And the first one there is Duke on his motorcycle. And that's interesting. I guess they did mention it earlier, which is cool. He was like, remember that time you almost pancaked me?
Yeah, with the car. Yeah, Miles has a car he loves, and he throws it out just so casually in the beginning, and then it's coming back.
So
now.
Just so Duke was the first one to Andy's house after Miles, and he recognized him.
Yeah.
And then so all they're banging on the door, but Andy's not answering, obviously, because she's dead in the
garage.
In the garage.
Yeah.
So none of them were surprised that Andy had shown up to the island for the murder of Richie because they don't know that she's been dead. Because once again, the story has been suppressed.
Yeah.
But Duke, being a Twitch streamer and stuff constantly online, he gets notification, Google alerts about all of them.
Yeah.
And so after Benoit solved the crime and they're, convincing each other, Miles is convincing them to stay, Duke gets an alert that says Cassandra Bland. No.
Yeah.
That's
Blanchard? Is it Cassandra Blanchard?
Andy.
Yeah, Andy.
Sorry. Andy has been found as shown as committed suicide.
Yeah. So that's when he called him over from before, which had that little plant there. Was when Duke called Miles over to talk about it, and he said, "Hey, so with views like that, I should definitely be able to be anchor, right?" And Miles was like, "Oh yeah, for sure." It's because Duke was showing the headline to Miles, which was Duke's way of telling Miles, "Hey,
I know that was you.
I know you killed her, but I'll be all right with it as long as I can be the news anchor." And going from there.
And so you get proof that Miles killed Andy, and then to continue, he also killed Duke.
Yes,
and he did it so quickly, so early on. Like you said, because what did it say that
Duke don't mess with pineapples?
Yeah, well, there was that. Yeah, Duke don't mess with pineapples, so you know that Duke is allergic to pineapples. Yeah. But when Miles was the one that made everyone notice that Duke had been drinking from his cup.
Yes. Yeah.
And so what you get is Miles poured pineapple juice in his own cup. And instead of Duke accidentally grabbing Miles' cups, he put it in
his hand
and put it in Duke's hand.
Yeah.
And so that's two murders that, he has committed. And then Helen comes with the evidence of the original napkin.
Yeah.
And so after the trial, obviously because of killed, he had the evidence.
Yeah, he had the evidence. Yeah,
Miles had copied everything from the napkin, and this is the evidence that I came up with.
Yeah, that he came up with.
But what he doesn't have is a napkin with the original insignia from the Glass Onion, because it had closed a decade before.
Yeah.
So this is proof, and it's in Andy's handwriting.
Yep.
So that this is the original. Andy came up with it. This is the proof.
It's going to ruin Miles now. Yeah. And Helen's just waving it about for everybody.
And this is what always pissed me. It was like, why would you even? So literally, she waves it in front of Miles.
She's like holding it right in front of Miles' face. She's like, and it's right here. How?
So quick thinking, he burns it because that's all the evidence you have. Because once again, in a state of law, it's not what it's not what you did, it's what you can prove, type of thing. Mm-hmm. So he burns the evidence.
Yeah.
And now Benoit is just like, well, he's right. Like, we don't have the evidence, and these people won't testify against him. You have nothing. Yeah. And so he gives her an advice. He was like, I think you should get out the same way your sister was trying to. Yeah. And he hands her a drink, which was given to her earlier, but he told her not to drink, so that she could have her wits about her when she was going around.
He wanted to give her a little bit of courage, and then he handed her the little clear crystal. So the hydrogen gas.
She goes about just destroying all the sculptures in the room, and the rest of the friends, because she also admitted that she's not Andy, she's Helen, the sister, and that was another one where Kate Hudson goes, Andy, you did tell me about Helen. What? Helen?
Helen? Yeah, it's just very funny.
So Helen is now destroying all this stuff, and Miles is just looking at her like, I mean, do whatever you want.
He's like,
cares?
Okay, whatever. Yeah,
and then also some of the other ones are also because they're tired of Miles, but once again, they're still on the teat. Mm-hmm. So but they use this moment to also destroy his stuff.
A few sculptures here and there.
And then she starts...
She lights a fire.
She lights a fire, and he's like, all right, calm it down.
He's like, all right,
are you done, lady?
Yeah.
And so she realizes that because he had admitted that he had used clear to power everything on the Glass Onion.
Yeah, and that's how he was going to tell all the politicians, like, hey, buy Alpha's clear product because I'm powering my house with it. Everything's all right.
But like you said, the way that
hydrogen gas works is things are not all right.
So since she set the fire, the entire room erupts. Yeah. In flames. There's like literally the whole Glass Onion blows up.
Well, because she has the clear crystal, she throws it in the fire, and then it explodes, and then that fire gets sucked in the ventilation shafts, where then, again, hydrogen gas is powering your water, heat, electricity, everything is powered by hydrogen gas in this home. So then that fire goes up in the ventilation shafts, and then boom goes the hydrogen gas.
Which, once again...
It's okay.
They survived this.
Yeah, everyone's fine though. Huge explosion destroys this entire place. Fire erupting everywhere.
He's upset, but it was like, who really cares? Like, did you feel better?
Yeah.
And then she recognized that now this house, his living room was on fire. So she goes once again, since the whole MacGuffin about the Mona Lisa. Yeah. He has a failsafe to shut down the security measures. Yeah. So Helen runs straight towards it. He tries to tackle her, but she stiff arm, he just never played football.
Yeah, exactly. It was a very bad tackle.
So she hits the failsafe. The security measures drop, and now the Mona Lisa is burned.
The legitimate Mona Lisa is burned.
And now he is ruined because, one, you destroyed the Mona Lisa. Yep. And two, it's shown that your clear product is dangerous.
Yeah, and you not only is it dangerous, you destroyed the Mona Lisa with your clear product.
Yes. So now, and that was his biggest thing about being immortal, is like he wanted to be named in the same breath as the Mona Lisa. Yeah. Now he definitely
is.
As the man that destroyed it. And so everybody goes outside. And then, like, he's upset, but he's like, I still won in a way, right? I still got away with my crimes. And now you see the other friends get the courage to be like, to testify against him. Yeah. So now you see the police boats on the horizon. Benoit is now sitting out on the beach. Helen joins him. Yeah. And like it's the movie ends. It was like that. It's you don't know technically what's going to happen, but basically Miles' reputation is ruined.
Yeah. Once his reputation is ruined, then his friends, not the other people there, finally get the courage to
because there's nothing, he has nothing else, so it's like he has nothing over them or nothing that he can do for them. And that's the end of the movie.
That's the end of the movie. Yeah, so honestly pretty solid. So I guess the question always is, after going through this review, does your end opinion change of this movie?
No, still 3.5. I think like you said, that first part before they jump back to May 13th again and like kind of get into the story, it was that part was great. But it was very much that whole second part was like getting the what happened, which usually in a whodunit, it happens in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Where like now the detective is giving you how things. So you literally had a whole hour of how this all happened. It was like, that's way too much.
Yeah.
You could have, and they did sneak it in there with like obviously everything that happened before dinner or during dinner, but everything prior was just literally spoon fed to the audience for 45 minutes. Like you could have given a backstory on how they all met. We knew they met at the Glass Onion, but they could have had a thing where Claire or somebody was like, well, we all knew Andy first, and then she introduced it. So like you didn't need that story from Andy's journals later on. Yeah. So it was just like, I think they spoon fed the audience too much, which is I guess fine, but it was an hour of it. Yeah. So it was just like way too much. So still, I'm going to stick with the 3.5.
Yeah. I'm sticking with my same. It's still somewhere in the ether of a 3.5 to a 4. It's because again, I think it's still for me a little better than a 3.5, but it's still not quite a 4. Very entertaining movie. I enjoyed it. Would I watch it again? Maybe. I'd watch the first Glass Onion first. Or not the first one, the first Knives Out. But I will say, again, even just thinking about it, I think every actor and actress in this did phenomenal. Yes. And that was so truly the only issue from this was just trying to put everything into a 2-hour and 14-minute runtime. And I think if you could have expanded the story a little bit, that could have also been better. But again, everyone did pretty phenomenal in that. So I enjoyed it immensely. But that is everything from us here at Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to reach out to us, we are the Two Meddling Kids on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Would love to have you reach out. We have TikTok Shorts, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram Reel Shorts coming out at least twice a week. We're still thinking about some more things we can play. So if you'd like to recommend any movies for us to listen to, we're all for it. From there, if you'd like to reach out to me personally, I'm EdHunt77 on Twitter and Instagram. I go on Twitter. I don't really tweet that much, but I'm working on it. Instagram, I'm on a little bit more and just having a blast. So would love to hear from anyone listening. Mike, how can they reach you?
You can find me at Days from Legendary on Instagram.
Perfect. All right. Y'all, we are the Two Meddling Kids. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Peace.